Howdy partners, here we are fooling around in the woods again, and we'll just go and see what happens. It's been a rainy day, it's all covered in mud and just the kind of conditions that I like. So let's have a little look and see what happens today. So it's very, very muddy today. It's been chucking it down all night last night and all this morning. You see the path is turned into a real obstacle course. And these little roots can send you flying too. Probably going to start chucking it down again soon anyway, so that'll wash all the mud off. Whoop. Bit more like skiing today. So we'll have a look at the view over the valley. Take a couple of photos here. Beautiful. In fact, I won't bother taking any pictures because I've got millions of pictures of that already. And what I think we might do is go down for a pint. Just to strictly rehydrate myself, you understand. So the last time I came here, this was all cornfields. So they've got rid of the cornfields, put an electric fence up where the cows are. So I have to go quick because there's a big troop of walkers down there all heading for the bar, and if I shilly shally dilly dally, I'll be waiting ages to get served. So that feels good after one beer. So I suppose it's rant time now before the battery runs out. Thinking about lots of things really, but let's take, for example, Ebola, that disease where your insides start to melt and bleed. And been around for a while in Africa, but it hasn't, never really made the news, but now that it's encroaching on first world shores, there's a big to-do about it in the media. And it's often like that, isn't it? Stuff that happens in the third world's not important really until it affects people in the first world. I think it was the same with AIDS as well. It was in Africa, then it came to the West, and then something was done about it. And people say in Africa, the primitive people, and in those little villages you get the villagers fighting against one another, and they go out with machetes and chop each other up. Not civilised. So why should we care about them? But in those countries, say from one village to the other, one village has got a war going with the other village, and the warriors of the village go out with the machetes and have war and chop people's heads off, which is what war's about. And before we start jumping around saying how primitive they are, we do the same thing, but we do it with machines much more efficiently, vicariously, from a distance. There's some guy in a control centre with a joystick directing a drone to send a missile down, and when that missile explodes with its cluster bombs, all those little shards of metal chop people's heads off, exactly the same as somebody chopping off a head with an axe or a machete. And it's the same with food, isn't it? You go to these third world countries, you see loads of dead animals on a bench with their eyeballs hanging out and all the tripes and guts there. Or in Hong Kong you see dogs' heads on tables being sold. But we eat animals the same, except we have it in little clean plastic boxes, and all the slaughtering and squeamish stuff gets done behind closed doors. And what's the difference? None at all. So I'd say the warrior who chops someone's head off, and the man who slaughters his animal and sells it on the market, at least that's honest, isn't it? Danke. Yeah, at least that's honest, and it makes you think. Because if you are wielding a machete and get all covered in blood and you have to use your muscle power, then you're going to think twice about doing it. Whereas you're sitting comfortable in an office chair in front of a computer screen, sending out a drone, then you're taken away from the reality. It's just a game, and that's more perverse really, and anything can happen then. So it's a dirty world, and horrible things happen, and one species kills another species to live, or men kill each other to become supreme or for land or whatever. But however you do it, whether you do it with a machine clinically, or whether you do it with a machete on the ground cutting off a head, it's no different really, except when one man cuts off another man's head, then there's two people in an argument. When you shooting from planes or ships, shooting torpedoes, it's not man against man, it's a machine against man, and it's not fair in a way. Not fair at all. It's sick. And therein lies the conundrum, because we think we're civilised, but we're not. By working that unfair way, we're absolutely uncivilised, unsporting, even though we like to think we are very sporting and clean and good in the West, when we're not. We are the true barbarians. Shit. It's funny how you see this at the moment. Let's just go back to this third world thing and the ISIS are the bad guys at the moment. But it seems like only the countries with high-tech weapons are the ones with all the media, and I wonder if we're getting sold a bill of goods. For years and years, the Jews were the scapegoat, and you used to see those posters, well, not just in the Second World War, since the 11th century, I think, Crusader times. Arabs have always been a scapegoat, but then Jews moved to Europe after they got thrown out of Judea by the Romans. And there's always been pogroms when people said plagues come, blame the Jews. Someone's been murdered, must have been the Jew. And then you got in the Second World War, you got the technology coming again, and the Germans and Nazis gassed all the Jews, and they used to have those posters hanging up with your archetypical Jew picture there, his big lips and his big nose rubbing his hands together. And George Orwell summed it up with it being Goldstein. You know, Goldstein is the classic Jew. But that's become politically incorrect now to use the Jews as a scapegoat. So now we're using the Arabs. And you see pictures of the Arabs are looking out for little beard, hooked nose, thick lips. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, it's all the same thing. It's like the Jewish face on the Nazi propaganda pictures, and makes you wonder when it's ever going to stop. And after the ISIS guys are sorted, and the Al-Qaeda and the Jews, who's the next on the list? There's always got to be someone. And this kind of madness, it's a sickness. I think it all stems from this vicarious war thing, you know, going from the one warrior chopping off the head of another warrior, or fighting him physically, body to body. And you've got respect for your enemy then, because you're fighting with him body to body. But once it becomes further away, then you've got no respect for him anymore, and it's just a symbol. And that's when dangerous things start to happen. Like animals. Fair enough if you have a cow and you kill the cow at this time of year, or a pig, salt him down and eat him. Fair enough. It's a different story when it's a big warehouse big factory full of animals and it's death on production line. It's the same thing. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think a lot of people have just had enough of it now. People are starting to open their eyes and hopefully start to think a little bit more for themselves and not always just accepting everything. Yeah, probably one day it will be time to pay the piper. So I feel like I'm in the zone at the moment. What's in the zone? When you get to a certain stage of exhaustion where you just feel like you could go on forever and ever and ever. There's a bit in Ripping Yarns when he takes cocaine and he starts hopping around. Instead of running, he's hopping. And he says, I can feel as if I could hop and hop and hop forever. And at this moment I feel as if I could ride forever and ever through the forest. And my face is covered in mud. Feels like it is. Why everyone keeps smiling at me probably. So I'm covered in mud. Look at the state of this bike. Look at it. Me as well. So I'm going to head off home now and have a good hot shower, which is going to be great. So easy going downhill compared to uphill. Come fly me to the moon. So we make the last race for it in the home, in the fucking rain. Yeah. It's just